Don't touch me, little man. Move, get back.
Come on, that.
Get back. Move, bro. Move, get back. Get back. No, I'm not. Get back. Please move from my car, bro. Move, little man. Please move.
Oh, you on that?
Move, little man. Move. Get my door, please. Get my door.
Before you watch this, understand that the woman you're about to hear was already scared for her life when she pulled out her phone. She was standing outside her own job, filming the man she was trying to get away from, and this is what she said.
Please leave. I am not okay with this. Please leave my job.
Now look at what deputies pulled off the camera on her front door, the same man showing up again and again in a single night.
Then there's this, a log showing Williams on her doorbell camera more than 20 times in one night.
6 days after the sheriff finally put a warrant out for that man, Shantae Butts was dead in her own bedroom, shot in front of her kids. She did everything the system tells a woman to do when a man will not let her go. She filmed him, she called the police, she filed the reports, she even left her home and hid in a hotel. Hold that thought, because we are coming right back to how a woman who begged for help this loudly still ended up gone. Let me put you in the room with who she really was, because the news turned her into a headline, and she was so much more than that. Shantae Letitia Butts was born on February 5, 1993 in West Palm Beach, Florida, and she came up in the Belle Glade area with a big family that had deep roots all through the Glades. She was 32 years old when she died, even though a few early news reports had her age wrong at 34 or even 42.
So I'm 30, finna be 31, and I was adopted as a child. Between adopted and foster, I don't think people know this, is when you adopted, you belong in that family. So therefore, the state can't come and take you out of that household. Now, if you fostered, you could just get taken at any moment whenever the person choose to get a child. Like if they want a child and they want you, they could just take you.
And her own obituary sets the record straight. She was a proud graduate of Glades Central Community High School, the class of 2011, and after that she kept going, earning a certification in early childhood education from Palm Beach State College. Here is the part that hits different once you know how her story ends. Shantae worked in security. She had her Class G security license and was working for St. Moritz Security Services when she was killed, which means her whole job was watching over other people and keeping them safe, and yet nobody in the system managed to keep her safe. She was a mother of 4, a son named Kamar and 3 daughters, and everybody who knew her talked about her the same way, as a strong, loving mama who put her kids first. Friends and family called her Shay Shay, and when she died, her old classmates flooded the internet with prayers because the loss hit that whole community hard. Now let me tell you about the man in that video, because you cannot understand what happened to Shantae without understanding him. Little Mac Williams was in his mid-40s, a longtime Belle Glade resident, and he was the father of at least some of Shantae's children.
You let me know you really don't give a fuck about me. I pray that the good Lord forgives me and He sent me into heaven. But this is too much for me on this earth. I'm stressing, I'm not sleeping, just my mind is everywhere, and this has really taken a toll on me.
They had a long on and off relationship that ran for years, the kind that kept breaking and getting patched back together, and by the summer she died, they'd been done for about a month. But him being done and her being done were two very different things, and that gap is where all the danger lived. She was trying to close the door on him for good, and he kept treating that closed door like a personal insult he had a right to kick back open. People on the outside always ask why a woman does not just leave, and Shantae's story is the answer nobody wants to hear, because she did leave, and leaving is exactly what put the target on her back. She had a no-contact order, she had cameras, she moved around when she had to, and none of it slowed him down because the piece of paper meant nothing to a man who had spent years learning that the punishment for hurting a woman was a few weeks in a cell and then freedom. This is not a story about one bad night. This is a story about a man the news itself described as a repeat offender, and the record backs that all the way up.
Court records reveal a decade of abuse across multiple relationships.
A decade of abuse across multiple relationships. Sit with that. Before Shantae, there were other women. Back in 2014, when Williams was 34, an ex-girlfriend told deputies he forced his way into her home, choked her until she passed out, and raped her, and the injuries on her were real, with swelling and bruising and a hematoma on her forehead. He was charged with sexual battery and strangulation and false imprisonment, and here is where you start to see the pattern that would eventually cost Shantae her life. He pleaded down to felony battery and served only 36 days in jail. It kept going after that. In 2018, another ex accused him of stalking and trespassing, including messing with her outdoor cameras, and he served 59 days. In 2023, a different woman reported he struck her in the head, and for that, he served 2 days in jail. 2 days. Add in older drug felonies going back years, and by this point, Williams was a convicted felon who was legally barred from even touching a firearm. Keep that fact in your back pocket because it matters a lot by the end of this story. So when Shantae finally became the next woman in that line, she was not dealing with a man who slipped up one time on a bad night. She was dealing with somebody the courts had watched hurt woman after woman, somebody they booked and sentenced and then kept turning loose, a little more emboldened each time he walked back out those doors. The first time Shantae's name shows up next to his in the record is July of 2024, and it's ugly. Deputies say Williams broke into her home, put her in a chokehold until she could barely breathe, kicked her several times, and grabbed her phone so she couldn't call 911, running off only when her daughter saw him. Watch the local station lay out what that first case actually was.
The first case involving Shantae Butts, the victim in this weekend's homicide, was reported in July of 2024 when she called 911 to report Williams had forced his way into her home and choked her. He was found guilty of domestic battery by strangulation and sentenced to 157 days in jail.
157 days and a no-contact order telling him to stay away from her. On paper, that looks like the system working. In real life, that order was worth nothing because the moment he got out, he started ignoring it, and he kept ignoring it for nearly a full year. In October of 2024, he was arrested for violating the no-contact order, calling her from blocked numbers and banging on her door. Weeks later, in November, he broke back into her home, stole her phone again, and fought her for it. That felony got knocked down to a misdemeanor, and he served 66 days. You're watching a woman collect proof the whole time, and the courts keep handing her abuser short stays and turning him loose. The reporter who dug through his files said the quiet part out loud, that the man they were now calling a killer had a history of choking this same woman and still barely did any time.
Despite being found guilty of choking Shantae, Despite being found guilty of choking Shantae Butts in July of last year, court records showed the most jail time Little Mac Williams served was 157 days, with each case after that carrying less time in jail.
Between that November break-in and the following summer, the reports never really stopped. Court records and deputies described nearly a year of harassment, stalking, threats, and damaged property, with Williams ignoring that no-contact order like it was never written. Somewhere in that stretch, her gun went missing out of her car, and that detail becomes important fast. Then comes the first week of July 2025, and this is where it all speeds up. On July 2nd, Williams showed up banging on her bedroom window and asked if she was missing her firearm, which was his way of telling her he was the one who took the gun out of her car days earlier. On July 4th, he came back, chased her to her car, and yelled threats until she fled. She grabbed her son and left town to Clewiston just to feel safe for one night. July 5th was the worst of it, and it's honestly hard to read. It started while she was already hiding out, because after fleeing to Clewiston, her camera pinged her that Williams had walked right into her empty house, a home he didn't live in, so she stayed the night in a hotel just to breathe. When she got to work that night, she was told he was standing by the front gates of the community looking in, and then a blocked number started calling her, and when she picked up, he threatened to do something to her company at her home. Her doorbell camera caught Williams coming back to her door more than 20 times in that same night, messing with the camera. And when she tried to duck home for one thing before work, he ran at her screaming, so she jumped into her car, locked every door, and had to reverse away while he stood in front of it, coming close to hitting him just to get free. She drove straight to her job and called 911, and the deputy who met her there noted she had a tear running down her face and told them she believed he was going to hurt her again. She handed over every bit of her camera footage, the way she always did. And somewhere in that same terrible stretch, she stood outside that job and filmed the clip you heard at the very top, the raw fear in her voice as she told him plainly that she was not okay and to please leave. That is not a woman playing games. That is a woman documenting her own danger in real time, hoping the record would be enough to save her. That day, deputies found enough to move. Watch how close the paperwork got and how it still did not matter.
On July 5th, deputies issued a warrant for stalking, but he wasn't arrested. 6 days later, she was dead.
A warrant for aggravated stalking sat there active on top of another warrant for stealing her gun, and nobody put the cuffs on him. 6 days later, around 11:47 at night on July 11th, it happened. Her young son called 911 and said his stepfather had broken in through a window wearing a black hoodie. The dispatcher on the line heard a grown man's voice in the background demanding, "Where is your mama?" And then came the gunshots. One of her kids later described Williams straddling Shantae on the bed and threatening her life. All 4 of her children were in that home when it happened, and her oldest boy had already gathered his little siblings and pulled them somewhere safer before he ever made that call. Her current boyfriend was shot in the chest but survived and made it to the hospital in stable condition. Shantae did not survive. Deputies found her on the bed and pronounced her dead at the scene at 11:58 that night, just 11 minutes after her own son begged them to hurry. When deputies rolled up, they did not have to chase anybody. Williams was outside the house, lying face down on the road, and they detained him without a fight. A neighbor who ran over after hearing the shots said she met him as he was walking out, and when she asked him where Shantae was, she says he told her flat out she was dead. That same neighbor went inside, kept the kids out of the bedroom, and tried to help the wounded boyfriend, and she said the look frozen on Shantae's face told the whole thing, that she was scared. She wasn't expecting it. Inside that bedroom, investigators found a black handgun magazine and several shell casings, plus signs he forced his way in, exactly like the kids said. Then Williams sat down for a police interview, and this is the part that shows you the kind of man we are dealing with. He claimed the house was actually his main home, said he only got into a fight with the boyfriend, and that the gun just went off by accident. He denied shooting Shantae at all, and even tried to say the other man did it. That story falls apart against the 911 audio, against his own kids as witnesses, and against the evidence on the floor, and it will all have to be tested in front of a jury since he has not been convicted of this killing yet. He was booked into the Palm Beach County Jail on July 12th, and the charges are stacked high. Here is the station running the list.
Williams is now behind bars charged with murder, attempted murder, and being a felon in possession of a firearm.
First-degree murder with a firearm, attempted first-degree murder of the boyfriend, and felon in possession, on top of the stalking and burglary warrants he already had. At his first court appearance on July 13th, a judge ordered him held with no bail. And as of the latest reporting, there's still no trial date, with the case sitting pending in Palm Beach County. Now, here's why this one made people so angry, and why it should. Shantae was not careless. She did the whole playbook. An advocate put into words the exact trap she was caught in, that the most dangerous moment for a woman is the moment she tries to leave.
I mean, the homicide rate is high, especially when someone's trying to leave that abusive situation. That's when they're at the highest risk.
The county's own top prosecutor, State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg, couldn't speak on Shantae's case directly, but he talked about men exactly like Williams, the ones the system sees again and again. Listen to how normal he makes it sound that guys like this keep cycling through.
The focus of the state attorney's office is to go after violent offenders and habitual offenders. And in domestic violence, that's no different.
Frequent flyers. That is the word for a man who choked one woman for 157 days, hit another for 2, stalked a third, and still kept his freedom. Ehrenberg pointed at the hardest wall in these cases, saying there is no crime that fewer victims participating in the prosecution than domestic violence, and that when victims cannot safely testify, felonies fall apart into misdemeanors. The brutal irony is that Shantae did participate. She reported, she filmed, she showed up in tears, and it still wasn't enough to get him arrested before he got to her. If you think this was a one-off failure in one town, sit with one more name, because it's not. Just about 20 months before Shantae, in the same Palm Beach County, a 34-year-old Haitian mother named Fridoline Daniel drove herself to the Boynton Beach police station to report her ex was stalking her and had a gun. Her stalker literally followed her into that lobby. But there was a language barrier, and the lawsuit says the officer mocked her accent, treated it like a joke, and never separated them or opened a real investigation. Less than an hour after she walked out of that station, Cesar shot and killed her in her apartment parking lot, and he later confessed that her going to the police was the final straw. Her daughter is now suing the city over how that report was handled. 2 mothers, same county, same ending. Both saw the danger coming. Both said it out loud to the people whose job it was to protect them. And both were killed anyway, within days or even minutes of asking for help. That is the pattern, and it's exactly why an advocate warned that unless something actually changes, more women will die the same way.
But advocates say it's too late for Shantae Butts, and unless something changes, more survivors will die asking for help.
Shantae spent her last year begging a system to see what was so obvious to her, and the paperwork moved slower than the man who wanted her dead. Rest in peace to her, and to Fridoline Daniel too. If you have somebody in your own life showing you these same signs, don't talk yourself out of what you're seeing and don't wait for it to get worse. Drop a comment for anyone out there who might need to hear it today, because your words might be the thing that gets one person to take the danger seriously in time. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is open 24 hours a day at 1-800-799-7233.